a lot of people trip up in letting go because they have attached emotions or memories. But that's actually where, to me, the very work is, in terms of holding that very tender space for it. Most of the time, I find that that's where the deep truths come out. That really is something that is what you want and the soul wants. There's so much power that you can bring that back to yourself in your agency and in deciding things for yourself. And to me, that process brought a lot of value to the other parts of my life in the way I make decisions, in the way I make my stand on things, because clarity arises from all of those. Welcome to The Sounding Ground, a space for conversations on healing, well-being, consciousness, spirituality, and navigating life with more clarity and intention. I'm Amanda Ling, a healing arts practitioner, author, and mentor, sharing grounded reflections, holistic practices, and meaningful conversations with inspiring guests across the creative and wellness spaces. Join us as we learn, reflect, and grow together from The Sounding Ground. Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of The Sounding Ground. For this very first episode, I thought I just want to keep it simple to give you a gentle introduction of what I do, who I am, and how I can support you through your own journey. So I have also recently launched my very first book, Align, Shift Chaos into Clarity and Calm. And that has been a very personal project, yet professional in its own way, in combining all of my years of experience into shared stories, into practical takeaways. And not too long ago, I had an interview about me sharing openly about my path and about the process of creating the book and what the book is about, the framework around it, aligned. And I thought, for this first episode, instead of me just like over-explaining things once over again, why don't we just take a look at the interview that I did and the conversations around that? I hope that would give you a clearer sense of what I do, who I am, and perhaps you may resonate with some points in there. I truly appreciate your presence. So let's just settle down and begin.
Good morning. Today we're speaking to Amanda Ling, an author and wellness practitioner with over 20 years of experience in multiple domains. Amanda has a very impressive past, very, very long and beautiful career in music. She's worked in education, yoga, sound healing, and decluttering. What we want to talk about today is a brand new addition to Amanda's legacy, which you can see behind her, is her new book, Align. Align. And it's so amazing. Where do you get this name? I know it's a very used word, it's a very common word. But how come that this is the name of your book?
Thank you for your wonderful introduction, with music, with sound healing, decluttering. Everything that I have done so far, it's actually really helping people to align, whether it's sound, aligning to the mind, the peace of the mind, aligning to the body movement, or music is just going with the flow of the beats and the music, aligning them to joy and create the creativity. And moving through my own process, align wasn't really kind of overly thought through in a sense, but I felt like I wanted to keep the spirit of align in my next venture, in my next phase of work and everything that I do. And it so happened that Align, it's kind of like a word play of my name, like Amanda Ling, Ling, and it's just, a word play on that. And I'm like, yeah, I think the answer is right in front of us sometimes, right? And Align, in that sense, is a framework. It came through me not like in a very structured way, but it's through I would say 20 over years of my own experiences, going through the highs and lows of the seasons and exploring different modalities. And the line is really more of a 5-phase process. So like breaking it down, like A is for awareness, L is for letting go, I is for integration, integrate, and G is for ground to grow. And the last one, N is for navigation. So in itself, they are processes. If you think about it, they aren't really, I have a multitude of modalities that I can tap into. And in my own journey, I have experienced, touching and exploring different well-being modalities and to find out what really sticks with me and what doesn't. But I notice there's always a process to it. It's always that sense of awareness that comes through to kind of understand what's going on. And then you realize that, okay, certain things don't actually work for me anymore, and I have to let them go, right? From that physical to the mental, emotional, and spiritual. And the next one, it's where integration comes because, once we have that space to, or that awareness to let something go and you have done it, there's this sense of void. I think most people would resonate with that. There's after you let something go, there's this like empty corner or like you feel that sense of strange emptiness in your heart even sometimes. But that's actually where, to me, the very work is, in terms of holding that very tender space for it. And I do emphasize a lot on that in my book. Actually, there's two chapters, letting go and integration. To me, I think it's like the beef of a lot of the things. And ground to grow is really where, once you integrate, you kind of learn the lessons, let everything sit in. Then you kind of restart the process and recalibrate like your values, right? We have to start from a new ground. So what is this new ground? What is the values that might have shifted over time, right? Maybe certain intrinsic core values stay, but certain other elements shift according to your life seasons and phases. And that's where you kind of craft. That's where the creativity of that crafting that new ground comes through from your sense of values. Who do you want to be? What do you want in your life? And with that sense of integrity to move forward, that it's in line with what you want rather than away. And it goes back to navigation where it's basically forming that basic structure for anyone to kind of know that, okay, at any point of time, there's a certain compass, right? It's a compass to have like a navigation way of what happens if this happens. Scenario A happens, da 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 da. Scenario B happens, what can happen? And it's just finding that little thing for oneself. And navigation, to me, it's, we have our own inner GPS navigation system. And to me, it's the heart. Then, we overthink. So sometimes we just have to just create that space to move the energy down to then bring more awareness. And most of the time I find that that's where the deep truths come out. That really is something that is what you want and the soul wants. So this 5 phase actually helps people to bring through, and this can be applied to anything in life, from, even though I have the certifications and I work with people in their physical clutter, but this is also where in the book I really talk a lot about the different kinds of clutter, right? Emotional clutter, mental clutter that can come out and look like negative self-talk, limiting beliefs, or, you harbor that grudge you have with someone for like 20 years and you haven't let it go, things like that. We kind of have to work that through. And so it could be applied to the different areas of life, and it creates that safe space, I would say, of a container. It's only for the self. Yeah. The relationship between the inner environments that we have in our minds and our hearts and the outer environment. So, and this is something that I experience myself, and also like taking clients through or speaking to people in workshops. And more often than not, a lot of people trip up in letting go because they have attached emotions or memories, into the physical items. And that's where you can tell that, okay, it's more than one thing. It's not just a physical thing, because the physical item is just a physical thing. But what makes it significant for the person is the memories, the emotions, the situations that reminds them of something in the past, both positive, both negative. And certain times, maybe sometimes you need to relook into whether the items or the emotions are going to serve them well moving forward, or is it just a block? A block into something that they want to create, but it's stopping them. Just like a trunk, a cupboard full of clothes, right? Or clutter. If people want new things, they should clear, and then they can then get more new things in, because if not, the new things come, it's not going to sit right, with the space that they have, or a very limited capacity to hold a new thing. So, and I think that applies to all the different multifaceted areas of life.
That's so
Yeah.
true. It also made me think about, sometimes even if it's not clutter in a classic sense, but there's something that no longer serves you, and you bring this piece, and I'm talking about physical world here, you bring this piece from your past, but it no longer, means the same thing, or maybe there's attachment with some negative past experiences or feelings that you have with the thing. And I'm sure that we all been there, consciously or subconsciously, but when you remove that thing out of your environment, there is like new opens up. There's this beautiful place opens up. And that's what I'm hearing from you. So
Yes,
what,
absolutely.
my next question, what is, or who is the person who you would think this book would benefit the most right now?
They are at a life transition. They are at some sort of experiencing some kind of burnout, chaos in life. They're navigating a place where they might have outgrown their old self, but they know that they want to get into a newer version of themselves, but don't know where to start because of some kind of attachment to certain things or certain anxieties around letting go of stuff. People who are, of course, physical clutter on that level, where they recognize that I really have too much things and I do really need to shave something down, but not knowing how to start. I mean, that's one of the most tangible ways to kind of like see that chaos. Yeah, so people that generally feel very overwhelmed with things in life, people who are dealing with so many things on their plate. They're taking on multiple roles in today's age and not knowing where to draw certain boundaries, and that's kind of eating them up, causing the burnout. Yeah, those are the people that might benefit from reading the book and to understand where they could create these different containers for themselves so that they are able to manage.
I read the book, and while I was reading the book, I caught myself that at the time of the book, and this is really beautiful, it came in such a good timing, because the chaos, you used the word chaos, the chaos I experienced was very much internal. And
Yeah.
yet, looking around me, even though it wasn't like completely cluttered, hoarding place, obviously,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of little elements that were also cluttering and creating chaos, which your book is not about decluttering as such. Let's just be very clear. It is a very personal journey. It's a reflection of your inner world. There's a lot of you in the book that I really loved reading about, because, as you were describing your experiences, I could definitely resonate and find echo, within, and actually finding really practical, clear solutions, clear ways to see through that chaos. And of course, it's a journey, and it's not something that happens overnight. But I think that these little insights were very, very. They were very, very personal to you, and yet they became very, very personal to me as a reader as well. So the chaos that one experiences, might not be a huge all over the place thing, but it will feel like this internally. And, we might be quite perfect on the outside, but what happens inside only we know. And I think that Align is the book that helps in those moments when you want to come from that chaos to calm. It's not yet the perfect life, but let's reorganize your thoughts, your feelings. Let's just give them labels, give them names, let go of things. And that's why, for me personally, your book was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
So with the book, I loved getting to know you better. I felt like I really did feel like I looked inside your soul with this personal book. That's why I really enjoyed reading it. And what would be the next step for me to get more access into your world and your guidance and your help?
If you have read the book, so like just drawing it back to the book, every end of the chapter, there are these practical self-inquiry prompts. So certain chapters are pretty kind of like a reflective journaling approach into a prompt to make you reflect what are the areas that you need attention to. And there are some other chapters that are actually very action-based, like go to this place and see what needs to be decluttered, or go outside, step on the ground. There's just different ways very tangibly to work with each chapter. So I would say the very first step is, if you have read the book, right? There's many ways to deal with it. Let's just put it that way. There are many ways to approach it. Either you read the book once through, you kind of thought through the self-inquiry prompts, or you can take each chapter at a time, right? You take each chapter, you can reread it. It's very simple read. Each chapter, at the end of each chapter, you have the self-inquiry prompts. Then you just take a time, right? You just spend and commit a time to just journal on that. Perhaps like leave a couple of days between chapters, then you tackle the next chapter and the next prompt. So there's more spaciousness in between, because you never know where all these little nuggets of wisdom you might access within yourself through the different moments that you create. And that's something that I actually highlight in my integration chapter, that spaciousness. So I would actually highly recommend that approach first, like take each chapter at a time, do the prompts and see how you feel, and through the different phases, but try not to skip the chapters because it's pretty consequential on that level. And the next step, if you just feel like you need more support, more help, you can always book my Align and Begin session. So the Align and Begin session really is about, we discuss, I understand what's going on with you, to see where clutter or chaos is happening in your life. And we're really just touching on that introductory element of awareness, right? It's really like a fraction of the first phase, I would say, for that first Align and Begin session. And we'll be kind of going through the different areas where you think you want to start. I would say, what is the easy start? You want to clear some chaos in that. And I would share different strategies that you could take away immediately, something small, something that can create this micro win victory, so to create more confidence and courage to move forward with your each phase. And at the end of the session, I would actually provide like a snapshot of a summary of what we have talked about, and a whole guide on the different strategies that we talked about, that you can have like a go-to. It serves as this guide for you to jumpstart this journey for you. So of course, even deeper, that we have I have a longer 6 months or 12-month container in the online mentorship. But to me, it's no hurry. It's everybody has their own phase and their own needs and preferences. So it's also a very beautiful way in that Align and Begin session to also see how our energies interact, and how you experience how I work and the processes and the styles, should we want to work further. So that's kind of like the next step.
I love it. I love it. And, as someone who has worked with you, I can feel like this first step is a very safe space to be, because a lot of us, some less people admit that they need help to others. And this can be a very private, and nobody needs to know, and Amanda is someone who can just step in, give you a solution, but then give you space to implement the solution, and yet at the same time guidance. So she's not here to fix you. However, she's someone who can really, really give you this real practical, real clear little things that are easy to implement. But then there will be integration that you can go through yourself. And that's really how we grow. And of course, not always one session. For some people it's enough, or for some people they need a session and they need to think about it and then integrate. But sometimes integration is easier together over a period of time. And this is a kind of commitment you can make to yourself. And this is something that is really, it's up to you, but it really helps. really helps to have
Yeah.
that kind of guide, because, you know, when I feel in chaos, very rarely a one-off session takes my chaos away, temporarily, maybe for a day or two, but then it comes back. And therefore, you know, with longer mentorships, I find, especially when you are decluttering your inner world, this is something that you need someone. And I find that, Amanda, you have the energy where, you know, when I'm in a crisis, that I can turn to you straight away. It's very
Thank
aligned
you.
energetically, and there you are, and in that moment you're the only person I need. Whereas in other moments I can rely on myself as well, you know.
Mm,
But the crisis moments is definitely so. If you're feeling, guys, if you're feeling in crisis, grab a line, Amanda Ling's book. Have a read. It's a beautiful, it's one of my favorite type of books, because yes, you can read the whole thing just to get a scope and, you know, and ponder on the prompts, but also it's a kind of book that later on you will already know the stages or the chapters that you would want to, in that moment, revisit. And I love those kind of books where you can pick them
mm,
up, open in the middle, and there's this chapter just for you. You don't need to read the whole story, because, you know, we're living in such a fast-paced world, who have time to read the whole book again, you know. But to pick it up and just get that reflection. It's not always direct advice for everything, but that's also good, because sometimes you just want to hear what was going on with Amanda, for example, through a certain
mm.
experience, and then reflect on that within yourself. And I find that kind of work, for me, I'm a very, you know, observer kind of person, you know, so for me that really, really works. And this is what I really loved. I really loved in the book.
You know, at the end of the day, I feel like um, it's really a time where you have to revisit a lot of things with the crazy changes that's happening in the world. And sometimes, like you say, you know, we just need some help, right? And it's okay to reach out. And I've learned it the harder way. It took me a long time to reach out for help in different ways, but when I do, it's, you know, it's really kind of like a load off the shoulders, you know. And at the end of the day, it's also the willingness and the readiness. I mean, that's an um important position to be, you know, that there's a willingness and readiness that you want change, that you want some to be better. In that sense, I came across a lot of different clients, you know, in the prior version of myself, where they're just trying to suss out the different ways to work with me, but then the unwillingness to look into their own clutter. I think that this is me talking from the KonMari when I was still doing a lot of like one-on-one consults, and it's really KonMari on that level. It's really kind of together. I'm just there to guide, but you have to look through the clutter and decide for yourself. I could only just give pointers, almost like a therapist there. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, some may have a misconstrued understanding, like, can you just help me just do it? I'll just come back home, you know? Like, no, you know, the responsibility is on them. I'm just really kind of a guide to hold them accountable to the actions that we both discuss, what could be the change for them that is comfortable and safe for them to start with. So yeah, that's the approach.
Sometimes we just don't want to do the work. We just want the work to be
I
done
know.
for us. You know, I know this is a little princess archetype that comes out. It's like, oh, look after me, you know. But the truth is that in life we have to take responsibility, and that hard work, and you know, not wanting to make a decision, but actually when you take responsibility and you make decisions and you allow yourself to integrate, you know, that the consequences of those decisions, it's beautiful.
It's
And it's so
beautiful.
worth it. Yes. And
And
sometimes it's
in the
hard to do it on your own.
Oh, definitely. And in that process, there's so much power that you can bring that back to yourself in your agency and in deciding things for yourself. And to me, that process brought a lot of value to the other parts of my life, in the way I make decisions, in the way I make my stand on things, because you're sure, because clarity arises from all of those. And I think that that is something, you know, for my style has always been, I try something and I know that it has helped me, and hence I kind of want to help people in that. And that's the same as for music. You know, I wanted to teach. I love music so much, I became a music teacher. not just a performer, right? And as a yoga helped me in such a big, like deep, chaotic time of my life. And I became a yoga teacher on that. And where sound healing comes, it's the same process, and decluttering is the same process. So I'm just excited now moving forward. I'm just in that full integration mode, integrating all of these experiences and the multidisciplinary perspectives to be able to guide people through this as well.
I love it.
Thank
I
you.
love it because not everybody is like that. When you are doing something and you have this calling to
Oh,
share that,
yes.
there it is a calling. This is a purpose, and I love seeing you living in your purpose and synthesizing all of that into quite a unique process. Maybe it's unique and personal to you because it's such a lived experience, and yet it's so helpful and powerful as guidance to people who are your people who are coming for that guidance because they're ready to do the work, right? And those are the
Exactly.
best
Yeah.
who will benefit from this work. So where can we get the book?
You can get it on Amazon. I would be handing you the link. It's available on Kindle or paperback. If you are someone who's text down and loves like going through the pages of the book like I do. So yeah, those are available on Amazon.
Perfect. And I know that there's more than just the book we can get, that there's some
Oh
bonuses.
yeah, there's book bonuses included. So you can get into the QR code or the link if you get the book. So there are a few book bonuses in line for you, like supportive materials like audio meditation, some guides. I'm also have the compiled all the self-inquiry prompts from each chapter. So it's just kind of like a worksheet style. So you don't have to technically go back to each chapter and do it. It's just all in one. Yeah, and just a couple of I don't know what, there's quite a few in there, but the main ones are basically like a guided visualization, meditation, couple of video interviews if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so that's pretty much what's been in the book bonuses. Possibly more to add along the way, you never know. But yeah.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it because it straight away says to me, right, this is not just a read. There is integration available. I can straight away use some tools that are a little extra with this. So thank you so much for this, for the bonuses, and I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
getting
I'm
some
excited.
myself, Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. And
Thank you,
guys,
Juliet.
you're very welcome. Guys, I really recommend that you go and grab the book, whether it's a
Yes,
Kindle
go
version
get
that
it.
you can download, read now, or get yourself, a physical copy. I do love my books printed, and it's such a beautiful design. It's a beautiful book, and it's a great, great
Thank
thing
you.
to just go to whenever you feel that little mini crisis again, even when, the full alignment is a myth, because this human life experience it's all about growth. That means that we will never be there, like fully aligned. That's a myth. In my opinion, it's a myth. And therefore the mini crises will always happen. And this is such a great reminder to have beside you, on your nightstand, to just get back and back and back into yourself. So I really highly recommend that.
Thank you. Thank you. So there you have it. Thank you for spending your time with me and tuning in to this very first episode of The Sounding Ground. I'm really excited to continue these conversations surrounding healing, well-being, consciousness, spirituality. And if anything in this episode resonated to you, feel free to leave a comment. Or if you have any questions around it, feel free to reach out, leave a comment. A lot of your questions would definitely help shape the conversations that will be to come in the future episodes. And if you feel that this episode would support someone else, feel free to share it with them. Also, don't forget to like or subscribe so that it would reach more people. From the next episode onwards, I'm really excited to invite some amazing guests on the podcast. Some are friends, some are peers, some are experts in the industries that they are in, offering insights, and are going to have really amazing conversations. I'm looking forward to share those conversations with you. So to the next time, take care, stay grounded, and see you.